Zelensky is saying we will need peacekeepers on the Belarusian border. There is talk that NATO is up to no good to try to cause chaos or some kind of troubles in Belarus. I've heard large numbers of Russian military personnel moving to Belarus. Clearly, they suspect something. Your thoughts on all of that, Scott Ritter?
I mean, look, Belarus has been the silent partner in this entire, Russian endeavor in Ukraine. Russia would not have launched a special military operation without first securing not just the support of the Belarusian president, Lukashenko, but also to ensure that Belarus was up to the task of the responsibilities being given to it. And, it's not me manufacturing something out of thin air. Ask Lukashenko himself. He said, my job isn't to invade Ukraine. You won't find a Belarusian soldier in Ukraine. My job is to protect Russia from being stabbed in the back by NATO. That while Russia is exposed in Ukraine, my job is to ensure that there is no, NATO thrust out of the Baltics from Poland to take advantage of a perception of Russian weakness. And Lukashenko has fulfilled his job brilliantly. But, there are geopolitical realities that Lukashenko has to be aware of. And one of those sort of manifested itself back in June when Lukashenko started speaking of the danger of Poland coming in and seizing Western Ukraine, that Poland had designs on Western Ukraine. And Lukashenko said, we will never let this happen. We will never allow ourselves to be surrounded by NATO. Just like Russia won't allow Ukraine to become a NATO nation on its border, Belarus is not about to allow Western Ukraine to become part of Poland, therefore, extending the Polish border. And Lukashenko basically said, we will occupy Western Ukraine before Poland occupies Western Ukraine. And so when you have the Ukrainian president, it's part of his overall, act of desperation that's taking place. And I sort of feel sorry for Zelensky. I really do. And I'll tell you why. And I know people are going to jump up and down. You can't feel sorry for him. He's a Nazi supporter. He's an idiot. He's a comedian. He's X. He's Y. He's Z. Okay. I still feel sorry for him. Why? Because he was promised a bill of goods. Ukraine as a nation, everybody sits there and with just cause saying Ukraine has been shelling the Donbass for 8 years. Ukraine has been at war with Russian speakers for 8 years. Ukraine has been assaulting the Russian people, ethnic Russians of the Donbass for 8 years. And all of that is true. But the Ukraine you speak of was put in power by NATO in the West in a coup d'etat that occurred in February of 2014. And since 2015, NATO has been training the Ukrainian army to do one thing and one thing only. And NATO has a nice little PowerPoint presentation. It's brag. Every 55 days, we train a Ukrainian battalion here, arrow, so they can go here to kill Russians there. I'm like, okay, at least you're being honest for a change. But anybody who thinks that this is Ukraine acting alone is just don't know what they're talking about. Poroshenko, Minsk, it's a sham. It's a shield to do what, Poroshenko? To let Ukraine lift weights and become a he-man itself, or to allow Ukraine to be injected by NATO steroids so that they become bigger than. It was so that NATO could train the Ukrainian military to carry out offensive military actions to recapture Donbass and, in a height of fantasy, Crimea. NATO has been the backer. The United States has been the backer, encouraging this. And then Russia acts. Bam, comes in, special military operation. And around April, I think both sides were a little punch drunk. Russia didn't get everything it wanted, and Ukraine was realizing, holy cow, the Russians are here. This is real. This is no longer us kicking dirt in the face of the people of the Donbass. This is the Russian bear that's awoken, and it hurts. I mean, we're holding it off, but it hurts. So they met in Istanbul, and there was a peace deal on the table that Russia was going to take, one that, severely limited what Russia was going to get out of this. And they would still protect the interests of the people, but it severely limited what Russia was going to get. And yet Zelensky was told, don't sign that deal by Boris Johnson, who was acting on behalf of NATO and the United States. And so Zelensky didn't, on the premise and the promise that NATO was going to give him everything he needed to stand up to the Russian bear. That Zelensky was going to sacrifice Ukrainian blood, Ukrainian treasure, Ukrainian soil to prevail over Russia. And now reality has hit home. His grand offensive is over. They run out of troops. They run out of everything. They got nothing. And Zelensky is looking around going, my God, what have I done? So you see the desperation. Hey, you got to launch a preemptive nuclear strike before Russia nukes us. Even though we know Russia's not going to nuke us, you got to launch that preemptive strike. Nuke them. Everybody's like, hey, calm down, take a chill pill. Oh, don't tell me to take a chill pill. You told me I was going to win, and now everybody's dead. I got nothing left. I need help. Air defense, air defense, air defense. We'll give you some air. I want more air defense. Zelensky's lost it. So now we need peacekeepers on the border with Belarus. We need peacekeepers because you come in, then blink, blink, nod, nod. You guys will suddenly transform into NATO. NATO will be here and I'll be saved. Yay! You lived up to your promise. And NATO's going, that ain't going to happen either. Zelensky's been abandoned. But there are some bad players. Not that NATO's not a bad player as an institution. I mean, you just have to listen to Jan Stoltenberg and understand that he's literally every evil movie character you've ever imagined rolled into one. But Poland has some designs on Western Ukraine, and Western Ukraine's in play. Why? Because Ukraine's over. I don't know if everybody's woke up, but the book's been written. It's been put to press. It's published. Hey, guys, flip to the last chapter. Don't bother. I'm going to tell you what it says. Russia wins decisively. End of story. The end. There'll be Russian troops there. Poland wants to put a little epilogue that says, well, Russia may have won, but we got Western Ukraine. And Belarus is saying, no, you didn't. And Russia's saying, we agree with Belarus. That's why you see a Russian group of forces moving into Belarus. You see joint training. You see the Belarusians making it clear what they're going to do, what's going to happen. And I believe what's going to happen at some point in time, there will be a trigger point in this campaign when Russia is broken through, when Russia is rolling up the Ukrainian military, and there's a window of opportunity for Poland to move into Western Ukraine before they run into Russian soldiers, the Belarus is going to come down and take that option off the table. But before that happens, Russia needs to integrate Ukraine into its nuclear infrastructure, make Ukraine extend the nuclear umbrella to Ukraine.
You mean Ukraine or Belarus?
I'm sorry, Belarus.
Yeah.
And pretty much create a relationship akin to Article 5 of the NATO Charter, meaning that should NATO move on Belarus, it's an attack on Russia, and the full weight of the Russian response will come to bear. So that's where we are right now. So that's why I think the Zelensky statement isn't just a throwaway statement. It isn't just the panicked utterings of a president waking up to the fact that he's been lied to by everybody. It is a statement that reflects a geopolitical vulnerability. Western Ukraine could become one of these, these trigger points for a larger conflict. All the makings are there, depending on. Because I don't imagine NATO is just going to sit back and go, yeah, okay, Lvov, it's yours, take it. I don't think Poland's going to be happy with that. I don't think the Baltic states are going to be happy with that. But to be frank, by the time that occurs, I don't think there's going to be much of a Europe left. Remember, this isn't going to happen until sometime in the spring, I believe. And by that time, the European economy should be 6 feet under. Dirt should be thrown on it. They're waiting for the ground to thaw to put the headstone out. It's it's going to be a difficult winter for Europe. And I think the Europe that's going to emerge in the springtime isn't going to be one too tolerant of any Polish territorial ambition.
Let me ask you about this, because, this discussion reflects that we are in a very difficult period right now, maybe the most difficult period, because I felt all along from the very beginning, looking at it, listening to the experts, I felt it appears to me that there's two things going on here. There's a narrative argument. Oh yes, the Russians are weak, and and they will lose to the Ukrainians. And then there's a reality argument that sooner or later they're going to piss the Russians off enough that they're going to take out a sledgehammer and stomp them into the ground, which appears to be where we are. There becomes this dangerous time when Zelensky's screaming, come on in, when there's no doubt some forces in NATO saying, hey, can we get in? Can we get in? You've said all along, you don't believe that NATO wants to come into this fight. Recently, here's what's interesting. At a time when Zelensky's saying, help, help, send troops, send this, send peacekeepers, Joe Biden just came out again and said, we don't want war with Russia. Almost kind of like he's hearing Elon Musk, Donald Trump, Jeffrey Sachs, Admiral Mullen saying, we need an end to this thing. I'm getting concerned that my family's going to get fried crispy too in these nukes. Biden comes out and says, we don't want war with Russia. It seems to me that he's reminding people, look, Zelensky may be asking, but we ain't going there. I still think you're right, but it's a dangerous time, Scott. Will NATO get involved? What's their move?
Well, I mean, look, what's their move? Jan Stoltenberg, the Secretary General, just came up and gave a very interesting presentation. He said, a Russian victory. Remember, Russia's lost. I mean, come back, read every newspaper. I can still go to Newsweek, and Ukraine is advancing wildly. Russians are throwing down their guns. They're running. Russian soldiers are peeing their pants. I mean, it's just bad stuff. You know, the Russians so panicked they blew up their own bridge to stop the troops from retreating, apparently, because the troops are all lining up Crimea to go home. You know, so the media is still there. But Stoltenberg, you know, I think he gets some briefings that aren't provided to the media, like the reality check. So Stoltenberg came out and pretty much said, look, a Russian victory is a defeat for NATO. And NATO must prepare for that moment so that Russia doesn't believe that it can roll on into NATO. So what did Stoltenberg just say there? The war's over. NATO knows it. Ukraine lost. Russia's going to win, and there's nothing NATO can do to stop them except show that the nuclear deterrent is real. So here's the dangerous thing. We are going to continue. I can't use, my wife has told me I'm not allowed to use accents anymore. So I can't pretend that I'm Jan Stoltenberg, my Norwegian accent. So, but we're going to continue this, this nuclear exercise that we have. We do it every year. So we're going to do it this year as if nothing changed. Why do we let the situation alter us? Why? Because all of you NATO idiots have been talking about nuclear weapons, Russia using tactical nukes. Some of your NATO idiots have talked about the need for a preemptive nuclear strike. You have the president of Ukraine calling for a preemptive nuclear strike. And now, in the midst of Russia's major offensive, you're going to hold a nuclear exercise where you train to do what? Use nuclear weapons preemptively if necessary. You're an idiot, Stoltenberg. I hope you're watching this. I know you're not, but I wish you were. Maybe somebody record and send it to you. You're a fool. Do a little bit of history, Jan. Able Archer 83. Go back and study history. The last time NATO had a nuclear command post exercise, and the Russians or the Soviets, they were a little concerned. What did the Soviets do? They put their nuclear force on high alert. On high alert. And you think the Russians are going to sit back there and go, oh, go ahead, assemble hundreds of aircraft, thousands, but not thousands involved. And I know you say those are just dummy nukes, but hey, you could put real nukes on, who knows? And if suddenly you fly them all at us and what? You overwhelm our air defense systems and you not nuke us to death? I don't think so. We're putting our forces on high alert. And now what have you done? You've created the situation where one damn mistake means the end of the world. Stop the exercise, Stoltenberg. Stop it now. Now is not the time to flex nuclear muscles. You know, it is just stupidity and extreme. You know, and Biden knows this. This is why, you know, in times of great tension, we postponed the test of Minuteman III missiles because we said we don't want anything to be misinterpreted. We've been planning this test forever, but we're not going to do it now because we don't want the Russians to think, aha, America's got some trickery here. Stoltenberg needs to grow up, be mature, show that he's worthy of the title Secretary General of NATO, and say, now is not the time to flex nuclear muscles. Now is the time for calm heads, sit down and reduce the tension. We have a very difficult situation ongoing in Ukraine. We can't predict the outcome, but what we can do is make sure that the outcome does not ever involve nuclear war. Take that off the table. But instead, he's putting it right square smack in the middle of the table. One of the most irresponsible things in modern history, literally. I'm not saying that this is going to end up in nuclear war. What I'm saying is he just made it possible. He just made it possible, because I don't believe Russia's just going to sit there in the midst of a conflict and go, "Oh, you're going to do a full scale test of your nuclear capability." You're going, "Oh, that's okay. We'll just ignore that." I think Russia's going to go, "BS. Bring the boys up. Get ready. We'll match you. You want to bring your boys up? We're bring our boys up." You know, I can't use the term, but it's a big something contest, and that's not what we need right now.
A missile measuring contest. We'll call that. That works for. All right. Well, we're going to move over to Rockfin. I want to thank everybody, by the way. I'm here with Scott Ritter, and we're on every Wednesday from 9 until 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Again, we're moving to rockfin.com. This is my only premium show. If you would like to check this out, it's my one premium show a week. You do need to be a premium member. You can be anybody can be a free member on Rockfin. See all of my stuff, with the exception of this one show. But if $9.99 a month for Rockfin, it's a great help to keep the channel on. And you can see all the premium stuff on Rockfin, the other people's stuff also. So thank you very much. We're moving over to Rockfin, and we got a lot to talk about. I want to talk about the new general involved in Russia and the missile strikes and what we can expect coming next. We're talking with Scott Ritter. Give me about 30 seconds to change the we're in on Facebook and Twitter and all that stuff. We're going to make our move over to Rockfin, and rockfin.com, ROKFIN.com/Garland Nixon. All right. There's Facebook. There's whatever this is. Twitch.
Twitch.
I'm on Twitch. Not even
Twitch. Twitch. That's a song, I think.